find better ways to talk about your brand. Find good narratives, right? There's something I learned from my partner Johnny Gunosa very early in life, right? Anytime Johnny Gunosa wants to talk, he learns to find big ways to talk about the small things he does. Some of you are doing a lot of big stuff, you are doing a lot of fantastic stuff, but you are talking small about what you do. Relocation is good, but there's a bigger idea called penetration, right? You can be building that product in Okyodo, Tanke, in Fati, in Songo, building a product and is generating global patronage in France. Someone in China is buying it, someone in England is buying it. That is globalization. That is more of globalization to me than even just relocation. When we got our government contract in Lagos, Alabarago, a lot of people know it as Alabarago, but we say this is the largest livestock market in Lagos, right? We are building in the largest livestock market in Lagos. That is a narrative, right? That is what sells. Selling is a transfer of emotions, right? It's a transfer of emotion. And if you look at emotions, you see emotion is like two words, emotion, right? It means energy in motion, right? So it is the emotions you transfer to people that they will receive, right? Problems of real estate is beyond just licensing. There are a lot of other factors, right? There is price control, there is the material availability of materials, affordability of materials. Our housing deficit is too much for us to be minor in major and major in minor. If we get into real estate, right, knowledge is very important, right? Knowledge is key. I do tell people that if you don't consult before you confront, you'll be confounded.
It's CEO's Hangout, showing on Stémma TV. Get inspired, listen to authentic stories, learn from those who have been there and seen it. Grow your business without a doubt. Watch CEO's Hangout.
Alright, my name is Fabian George. I build for kings, government and investors who don't settle for less. The name of my real estate company is Equity Circle, and we have operations in Lagos, Kwara State, Abuja, and even United Kingdom. And pretty much about me. I'm a fine young man, purpose-driven, value-oriented, goal-sensitive. I believe in God, and I believe anyone that has a dream can put in a hard work, can actually come out successful, basically. Well, first of all, I want to say that nobody gets to the top. People are brought to the top, right? So everybody in this world, nobody is a product of its own efforts. There's no really self-made millionaires. People help people, right? People give advice to people. People tell people do this. People give people money to sponsor their idea, right? So whatever leverage you have, right? Don't let people talk you down. If your uncle is rich, it's a leverage. Maximize it. If you have someone that supports you, it's a leverage. Maximize it. If you have someone that is interested in your matter, people around you, it's a leverage. Maximize the leverage. So everybody has a leverage. Don't let anybody deceive you. Talking about Equity Circle story, it's a very challenging story. I think we started with I'll call it almost nothing, right? Myself and my partner John Gunosa, we just left the real estate company we were working with. We just left the company and we were thinking of, okay, what do we do? What's the way forward? We had an idea, which is ownership, to see how that more people can now own real estate assets, because a lot of people feel like it's only when you have millions of money before you can own a property. But we thought we came with an idea to fractionalize and democratize real estate assets. But it was supposed to be a prop tech. Technology infrastructure was very expensive and we were very young. So we just felt like, okay, while we are trying to build this app, instead of us going to go and borrow money or going to, start begging for investors and whatnot, we already know the normal traditional real estate. Why can't we start a company that can, bring cash flow with this our traditional real estate knowledge, and from the cash flow we can now invest in what we want to do? And that's why we started Escort Realty, which we have now changed to Equity Circle now. So pretty much, and when we even started, we had no office space, right? We had no we had no we had no team, right? But we just felt like, we're going to start, and that's why I tell people that the only way to start is to start. Nothing starts until you start. Nothing works until you work. So you don't have to wait for everything to be perfect. Perfection is an illusion, right? If today is perfect, there will not be any need for tomorrow, right? Everybody will just, be here, but today is not perfect. It is the imperfection of things that, facilitate the consistent engagement of that thing. So you don't have to wait for everything to be perfect, right? Start now, start today, start, when the idea is coming, just make sure that you start, because the idea is one, execution is 1,000,000 times one. Yeah. Okay, so first of all, if you want to get into real estate, right, knowledge is very important, right? Knowledge is key. I do tell people that if you don't consult before you confront, you'll be confounded, right? So knowledge is key. Get knowledge, right? Whether as an investor or as a player, get knowledge. Knowledge is important, right? Because the difference in knowledge, the difference in performance is the difference in knowledge. If you're going to perform well in your investment, if you're going to perform well as a real estate developer, you need knowledge, because if you know better, you will do better. If you know better, you will invest better. So knowledge is important, right? I think that sums, that's the first step. I would advise anyone that's about getting into real estate, whether as an investor, as a player in the field, developer, realtor, whatever ecosystem you fit, knowledge is very, very critical. And yes, for me, about the license stuff, I think, I have a mixed feeling about it, right? First of all, there's so much. I think we are majoring in minor and minor in the major, right? Even though it's a good policy, but I feel like the problems of real estate is beyond just licensing. There are a lot of other factors, right? There is price control, there is the material availability of materials, affordability of materials. Our housing deficit is too much for us to be minor in major and major in minor, right? But I believe, we have a lot of countries where license works and whatnot, but beyond the licenses, right? Beyond the licenses, license don't really stop people. Lawyers have license, but they still mess up. A lot of professionals have license, they still mess up, right? While it's a good innovative, at least to, coordinate, and especially because of the unguardedness of some real estate developers or some realtors. But I feel like there's more to, if I really go need to sit down and really look at the industry and, prefer solutions, I think there is more to it than just the license, basically. When I'm not working, I play golf. When I'm not working, I'm not really serious type of. When I'm not working, I play golf. When I'm not working, I try to make sure that I activate different sports, right? So I play golf, I play NFL, that's rugby. I play long tennis. I do paddle. Swimming. I just love to experience even football. I just love to experience different types, different versions. Even learning boxing. So I try as much as possible to, in my free time, engage in those recreational activities. And most importantly, I meet people. I find joy meeting people. If I'm not doing my work, I'm meeting people. I'm thinking, how do I better my relationship with someone? How do I connect? How do I give value? Who are the people in my space that can connect to each other? So if I'm not really working, I'm thinking networking, I'm thinking recreational, activities. Okay, I did that video, when I saw a popular, video tweet someone made on X about how he met Femi Otedola, and all he could ask for was picture, and a lot of things, and when he left the scene, he was now thinking of the questions he could have asked, and it happens to everyone. I didn't blame the man. Really, really happens. Yes, but I agree with him that he could have asked better questions, and that was one of the things that facilitated me, to make that video. Being someone that has met different people, Saraki, I met Bukola Saraki at an event. I met a lot of amazing people. When I go there, I use this framework and it has worked. Right, the first is introduction. Right, who are you? It has to be very, very clear. Right, who are you? My name is Fabian George. I have a real estate company. I will be for government and kings and investors who don't settle for less. Right, that one is clear. Your introduction has to be clear. Your introduction has to be creative. You have to learn how to say your introduction in 30 seconds. Right, I remember there was a particular meeting we were, and it was an award ceremony, and we were 100 before Oni of Ife. Oni of Ife was supposed to listen to every people, introduce themselves, about 100 of us, and I and my partner were sitting together. We now gave ourselves a strategy that we're going to combine our seconds, 30 plus 30, that was 60 seconds, right? So we combined that 60 seconds together, and we gave an introduction that Oni first spotlighted us, and it began a foundation for a good relationship with Oni. So you have to learn how to introduce yourself, in a very creative way. What are you doing? Nobody care about your title. People care about what you are doing can benefit them, right? Nobody care if you're a shoemaker. They will care when you tell them that you help them get attention wherever they go, right? Nobody cares if you're a photographer, but they will care when you say you help them save better memories, So look beyond what you do, beyond the title. What are you actually doing? That's what you should say, right? So sell the destination, not the plane. Then connection. Everybody wants to feel connected. Everybody wants to feel loved. Everybody wants to, there's that, innate feeling in the heart of everybody that, people appreciate what I do. People are noticing me. There's that innate feeling, right? So connection is you finding, something to connect with them. When I met Bukola Saraki, when I introduced myself, I told him I am a KCOB, King's College Old Boy, and I knew he's a King's College Old Boy. That was the avenue for connection. One of the things connection does is that it breaks the hostility, right? Because when you meet people for the first time, there's that people want to guide their space, like, who is this person? Because a lot of people have taken advantage. People come and ask them for money and whatnot, but people want to, they want to really, really safeguard that space. So the next reaction is defense. But when you connect and find a common ground to connect with them, you have broken that defense. They are now more receptive. Then after you have broken the defense, that's when you should give your ask, right? Ask, someone told me that someone was going to talk to a big man, so he was going to meet a big man, and he told me, how do I go about it? I said, what do you want out of this conversation? First thing, what do you want? So your ask has to be decided by your goal. What do you want out of the conversation? What do you want from the man? He said, I want the man to mentor me. I want to get his number, and I want him to mentor me. I said, fine. When you get there, just do this, do that, do that. It was like, how will I tell you? How will I get his number? I said, the only way to get his number is to ask. The only way to get is to ask. Ask and you shall receive, right? So, I ask. So learn to ask, right? Whatever you want out of conversation, learn to ask, right? We'll love to give me your number. We'll love to so that we can talk more. Ask. Right? Do you want to take a picture with them? Ask. Do you want to send them an email? Ask. It doesn't cost anything to ask, right? So these frameworks has helped me a lot. It's on the top of my head. Whenever I go to meet people, it's easier. I don't have to start remembering a lot of things, and it has worked effectively. Selling is a transfer of emotions, right? It's a transfer of emotion. And if you look at emotions, you see emotion is like two words, emotion, right? It means energy in motion, right? So it is the emotions you transfer to people that they will receive, right? Let's take for instance, my name is Fabian George, right? The first introduction was very casual. You could probably barely hear me, but when I switch to the second one, right, I sent an energy to you and you will receive it, right? So it's the energy you send to people that they will receive, right? So understand that. So you cannot talk cheap, right? Find better ways to talk about your brand. Find good narratives, right? There's something I learned from my partner Johnny Gunosa very early in life, right? Anytime Johnny Gunosa wants to talk, he learns to find big ways to talk about the small things he does. And some of you are doing a lot of big stuff, you are doing a lot of fantastic stuff, but you are talking small about what you do. If John wants to talk about University of Ilorin, he will say one of the largest universities in North Central, right? He's talking about University of Ilorin, right? He's not lying. Ilorin is the largest university in North Central, right? He's not lying, but the way he talks about it, makes the difference. So you're not just seeing University of Ilorin as University of Ilorin, you're seeing it. When we got our government contract in Lagos, Alabarago, a lot of people know it as Alabarago, but we say this is the largest livestock market in Lagos, right? We are building in the largest livestock market in Lagos. That is a narrative, right? That is what sells. So find better ways to talk about, what you do. Talk the small things you do, right? Talk about them in a big way. These are the kind of language people want to hear in the rooms. Number 13 is that don't see yourself less. Right? Don't allow your background, put your back on the ground. Don't see yourself less. You need to have a crazy level of optimism. A lot of people call it delulu, they call it delusion. But trust me, delulu can become tululu. Your delusion can actually become a reality. So be obsessed with optimism. Nobody can tell me no. I don't take no for an answer. I believe in myself so much. I believe in what you are doing so much. And I can tell you, before we started building for kings, government and investors who don't study for level, we have started saying it. We believed in it. We imagine it. And now everything is falling into place. So do all of those things. And trust me, you're going to see a remarkable change in your trajectory. My mentors, I have a lot of mentors. I have Temitope Ogbunsemo, he's a mentor of mine. Sheivodi is my mentor. I have different. Dr. Yemisi Adeyeye of Life Foundation is my mentor. Mr. Adiwude is my mentor. Mr. Obasanjo Oniweti, my mentor. I can't even recall a lot of names, but I have people that I've learned from, right? I have amazing people. Shola Onikoko is a mentor. There are a lot of them, that I keep on, building relationship with, keep on learning from, keep on gaining from, and it has really, really helped me, in my career.
All right, sir. So
King is my mentor of his blessed memory. But King is a mentor of mine and one of the people that impacted on me the spirit of goodness. The spirit of goodness. If I'm going to advising the youth, especially in this demography, I would say, you have to force exposure on yourself, right? Because you cannot get what you don't see, right? You cannot seek what you don't see, so you need to force exposure on yourself. Force exposure on yourself. Think beyond your geography, right? A lot of people want to say they want to jackpot. It's good, relocation is good, but there's a bigger idea called penetration, right? You can be building that product in Okyodo, in Tanke, in Fati, in Songo, building a product and it's generating global patronage in France. Someone in China is buying it. Someone in England is buying it. That is globalization. That is more of globalization to me than even just relocation, because globalization is more first of penetration of ideas than relocation of bodies, right? So you can actually be global, right? So force that exposure on yourself. The second thing I want to say is that people say, hey, Ilorin, great things can happen even in this Ilorin. There are a lot of people that have emerged from this Ilorin. There's a myth that says Ilorin means Ibiti Atin Ilorin, and if you look at a lot of historical, if you look at the history of this place, a lot of great people have emerged from this place. Greatness have emerged from this place. So don't say because you are in Ilorin, you are not destined for greatness. I tell you, you are destined for greatness, right? Ilorin is a home that forges people. Ilorin is a home that has built people. A lot of people have finished from University of Ilorin, turned out great, right? So your location is not a problem. Your thinkation is a problem. Your location is not a problem. Your thinkation, how you think, is actually the problem. Then the last thing I want to say is that be strategically positioned, right? Meet people, connect with people, right? Because men is still the strategy of God, right? When God wants to bless you, he will send people to you, he will send men to you, right? So connect, right? Find a way to meet with people, connect with people, talk to people, serve people, give people value. Combine all of these three forces together, you are going to make greatness for yourself. Where I see Equity Circle in 5 years, I mean, in 5 years, I see us dominating a lot of African continent. One of the things that we're telling ourselves is that we want to be the Julius Berger, the next Julius Berger of in the world, right? We want to really see how that we can take a lot of infrastructure projects in Nigeria, in Africa at large. So we are positioning ourselves for it, working for president of nations, working for ministries, global international organizations as an infrastructure contractor, right? So these are the places that we see ourselves, in 5 years from now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. So
it's CEO's Hangout, showing on Stémma TV. Get inspired, listen to authentic stories, learn from those who have been there and seen it. Grow your business without a doubt. Watch CEO's Hangout.